Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Pardon Our Picks, where perfection is a work in progress. I'm your host, Sam. Alongside me, the illustrious, the gorgeous Tarek, the GM. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. Week before Christmas, finishing up work. Got some sports to go through. Let's get her done. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing fantastic. Fantastic. And of course, it's beautiful to have the rest of the crew back from their hiatus. King Football Jesus, welcome back.
It's good to be back this close to my birthday, but I'm really excited to not talk about me and talk about some football.
His birthday, of course, being the alter ego of football of Jesus. Not his actual birthday, people. And then, of course, we have the QB coach, Jessica. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I think I've gone to like 85 holiday parties and lunches at this point, so I'm excited for those to be over and for football to keep getting a little bit more interesting and it come down to the wire.
Absolutely. The season is starting to come to its climax almost. And of course, we are brought to you by Aardvark Concepts Incorporated, more than just a sign shop. Check them out in Westminster for all of your sign and decal needs, as well as in Too Deep of Maryland. Check them out at their next show on the 18th of January at can't remember where. Twain's, that's what it is. I knew it was someplace I knew. So check them out at Twain's on the 18th of January. It's going to be a fun show. Speaking of a fun show, a lot of the divisions have been pretty well settled. Most people think that the wild card teams are just about settled as well. There's not much left for us to determine, but there are 4 divisions that are coming down to the wire. So let's break it down and see who we think is going to win each division. And I'm going to start with Tarek. Tarek, I gotta ask, the big AFC North battle coming up this week. Who's taking that division, Pittsburgh or Baltimore?
All right, I gotta get in the right mind because I've just been watching Brady just brush his hair for a couple of minutes, so it's just taking me out of the zone. So it's like a Maybelline commercial or something, or like Pantene Pro V, just watching him go.
I'm just gonna do it the entire time you're talking now.
That's not gonna be distracting at all. So AFC North. So this is an interesting one, not just because for all our viewers here that we're in Maryland, and most of us root for the Ravens in some capacity. But it's the Ravens and Steelers are like one game off, and they're playing on Thursday. So this is like we're at the end of the season, like they're vying for first place here. So, and this is always a tough division. It's always tough. Like even if like the Browns have been in like last place a couple of years, they've still like beaten the Ravens or almost have. So this is very interesting. I've got the Ravens coming out with this, but you got a couple of things. You got the Ravens have, let me just like list the games here. So the Ravens have the Steelers and the Texans and the Browns. So the 2 games that are going to be rough, I think, are the Texans, who have the AFC South, and the Steelers, which is like they're right now in first place and always give them a run for their money. The Browns, going to be hard just because it's a division game, but it should be. I think they got it. So I think the Ravens are going to come out with it, but it's going to be a really tough thing. But what goes for them is the Steelers have also got to play the Chiefs. Now, it depends how hobbled illustrious deity or the QB. I forgot
Patrick Mahomes.
The Mahomes in the sky.
I hate him so much. His name just like wouldn't come out of my mouth. He's my new Tom Brady. All my hatred went from Tom Brady to him. And so it depends on how hobbled he is and whether or not are they sitting him, or are they just going to rest him going into the playoffs because the Chiefs got the AFC West in the bag. So we'll see. But if the Chiefs put up any type of fight, I don't know that the Steelers can combat it. The Steelers have surprised a lot of fans, a lot of people this year. We talked about on this show that we weren't expecting a whole lot from them with their QB situation. So my answer is I think the Ravens are going to pull away with it, but it's going to be a hard one to go.
Okay. Let's move on to one of the division races that has more than 2 teams. We're going to jump to the NFC South. And that's going to be Jessica. Jessica, who do you think is coming out of that NFC South with 4 teams or 3 teams within striking distance?
I don't think 3 teams are necessarily in striking distance. I mean, I guess statistically speaking, but based on the remaining schedules for the top 2 teams, I don't see that third team slipping into there.
No, you're right. It's only 2 teams.
Yeah. So it's basically between the Buccaneers and the Falcons. The Falcons are 7-7 now. They just played the Raiders, I believe, and they barely won that game. Alternatively, the Buccaneers played the Chargers, which are a much better team than the Raiders, and won. They scored 40 points on them. So I think there's a child about to come downstairs. Also, based on the remaining schedule, so let's see. I think they both have somewhat easy schedules coming up. The only one for the Buccaneers, they do have Dallas coming. So that could be a point of contention for them. But the Falcons have the Giants, the Commanders, which is definitely going to be a challenge for them. I don't see them winning that game. And the Carolina Panthers, that one could go either way. The Buccaneers have Dallas, Carolina, and New Orleans. And the Buccaneers can definitely win all of those games. I'm going to go ahead and say the Buccaneers have this. I think that they are going to win a division for the NFC South.
Okay. Now let's move on to the actual division that has 3 teams vying for it. Technically 4 if you still think the 49ers have a chance. The NFC West, football Jesus, break it down.
Well, as Sam said, technically all of these teams are still in it, but I personally will eliminate the Niners just based on the significant amount of injuries that they have had to both sides of the ball, as well as the inexplicable drop-off that Deebo Samuel has had this year. He only has 1 touchdown catch this year. I'm also going to eliminate the Cardinals because it seems like when they play an okay defense, Kyler Murray can't get out of his own way this year. So I'm choosing them to potentially make the wild card, but I don't see that happening. So that narrows it down to both the Rams and the Seahawks. I'm going with the Rams on this because I have seen them pick up steam in recent weeks. Sure, they had a stinker, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, but they just played San Francisco in the driving rain and showed that they can still run the ball well, even with multiple wide receivers who are out there who are wide receiver ones in their own right. And I think with a quarterback like Matt Stafford, who has gone to the dance and been there and done that, he can really lead this team through the adversity of, a longer schedule and potentially going on the road in the playoffs. But another reason why I'm going with them is they have 2 more home games left, and they have a winning record at home, whereas Seattle also has 2 home games left, but they have a losing record at home this year. So that 12th man advantage has kind of gone out the window for Seattle this year. So I'm going with the Rams, but I think this is going to be a 1-game race, and that I believe the final week of the season. Yes, the Seahawks play the Rams in Los Angeles. That will decide the division.
Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about the NFC North. The 2 biggest teams in the NFC right now, the Lions and the Vikings, both with 12 wins, 2 losses. They have been absolute monsters as far as things go. Technically, Green Bay has a chance, but it's really not going to happen for them. The Lions have had a multitude of injuries. I mean, their defense has been absolutely devastated, and yet they keep finding ways to win. The Vikings, with Sam Darnold at the helm, have been putting up points. They've been getting those victories. They have been keeping stride for stride with the Lions. This comes down to the last week, which the Vikings play the Lions, and that is going to be for the number 1 seed in the NFC. Absolutely. The biggest race we have here is going to be that one. These guys are going to be playing at 2 playing it all the way down the string. And if the Lions don't get some of their defenders back, I feel like the Vikings might just steal this one from what has to be the best team in the division in the NFC right now. So I got the Vikings winning that division and the number 1 seed. Speaking of number 1, let's take a look at the standings and see where we all sit.
Oh, hold on. Let me get
the reaction. The reaction on the panel is just with just this smugness, just like yes, and then Brady's like anywhere.
I'm just gonna get into my position, which is under the table.
Do you guys remember Jexit? Mm-hmm.
Yes, I remember them trying to jeg you.
Them. Were you not a part of that?
Not really.
I think that was just me and Brady.
Yeah,
but I tied with you this week, so I'm.
You what with me? Oh,
it's 12-4 and 12-4.
Yeah.
Not
can't seem to catch her there, Tarek, unfortunately. And Michelle, our special guest last week, who thought she had done terrible, actually 12-4 this week. She did really good. I only had 9-7.
So Brady actually did do the reverse of what everything else was.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm still swinging for the fences. There's still time left on the clock. We don't give up.
I'm wondering if Brady can actually hold on to a winning record by the end of the season with the way he's going.
We'll find out.
3 weeks.
There's potential there.
It's a tall order if he keeps picking the way he is.
3 weeks left?
3 weeks left.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, that's possible. Watch him finish at 500. It would be beautiful.
Watch him. He gets close to 500, and then all of a sudden he starts picking winning games again.
Yes.
That's when I'll have a perfect week. Watch.
All right, let's get into our games of the week, and I believe I have King Football Jesus as the number 1, as the first game of the week. King Football Jesus, hit us with that gospel.
Well, going back to earlier in the season as we're wrapping up, I said one of these teams was going to win their division, and it looks like this may be their last gasp at that opportunity. So I have the Commanders playing the Eagles in Washington. There we are. So these two teams have already played already, obviously being division rivals, and the scoreboard for that previous game looks close. It was 26 Eagles, 18 Washington, but the numbers there really don't show anything. I mean, Philadelphia outgained them on all phases of the ball. They had a higher yards per play, more first down, better third down efficiency, XYZ. And what makes this game so interesting to me is not only is it a divisional game, Washington still playing for their playoff hopes, but Philadelphia is still potentially in the running for that number 1 seed in the NFC. So if they win this game, it's not like Philadelphia is going to sit their starters going forward because they still have to worry about what Detroit and Minnesota are doing. So I have this being a really close game. I know Jaden Daniels, he's kind of fallen off, and unfortunately, I think he has lost that Rookie of the Year to Bo Nix. But I still think this is going to be a really close game. I think Washington's defense has been surprisingly good this year. I didn't have much really expected out of anything to come out of Washington this year, and here we are talking about them in Week 15. But I'm picking Washington, but the smart money's on the Eagles and potential MVP candidate Saquon Barkley to, again, run away with this one.
You're muted, Jess.
Sorry, my child had come down. So short that I'm going with the more obvious pick there, the Philadelphia Eagles, but I do think because the Eagles give up so much yardage for the pass, this might be like kind of a decent back for Jaden Daniels because he will have to be on point in order to keep up with them. Actually be a pretty good game. Well, not actually. I think everybody knows it's going to be a good game. But it might come down to the wire, I think, and it'll be less than a touchdown.
Yeah, this is one I'm siding with Brady on this, not necessarily because I'm trying to throw anything, but I think this is going to be really close. Like as they said, I think there's a chance. It may be like small, but it's going to be a good game. But I think there's a chance that the Commanders that it I think it comes down to who wants it more. As Brady said, is Philadelphia trying for that number one spot, or are they just gonna like sit their starters and just rest on the laurels and keep the NFC East spot, number one spot division? So I do agree it's going to be close. I'm going with the Commanders, just trying for a couple of those small games, see if I can like get one up on Jess here. But we'll see.
Philadelphia Eagles after that big win against the Steelers last week. And the Washington Commanders almost slipped up and gave it to the Saints at the end of that game. A failed 2-point conversion kept them on the winning side, of course. They are the home team here. I see this game as being a very interesting game, and I'm not going to say that they have a chance to get the division, but I feel like they get the win here. Washington does, just to make the Eagles take one more week to get that division title, and making sure that we're all tuned in to see how things go the rest of the way.
Would have been really good if this was a Carolina pick and then your cat showed up.
Yeah. All right. Now, let's get into our next game of the week. Mr. DeFries, would you care to give us your game of the week?
If you got the right one in order this time, we'll see. So I got the Broncos and the Chargers. Yep. So I think this one, we already kind of talked about this one a little bit when we were talking about division. I think this is very, very interesting. So when I was picking this, and I was talking to Sam about this over the weekend, this wasn't the record. So everything was tied, and we didn't know which way it was going to go. So now Broncos are one up. But they're vying for that number 2 spot. I think both these teams are going to make the wild card, but they're both trying to get up as close as they can get. Not really possible to get the number 1, but they're fighting for it. And this is always a good divisional game, kind of like the Ravens and the Steelers here. But I think this is going to be a hard-fought one. Like as we talked about, Brady mentioned with the Commanders, no one was expecting us to be talking about the Broncos in Week 16 this year. People were hopeful when they drafted Bo Nix, but we did not expect it to go this way. The Broncos were going to have a winning record and potentially making the playoffs. So I think this is just going to be really interesting to see how Bo Nix and some of these other players and how the team goes into the postseason and what the Chargers are going to do. Chargers have been in this state off and on over years. They just kind of stay in this ambiguous line here. So I think this is going to be real interesting. But I've got, just for my pick, I've got the Broncos winning it and taking that spot.
I agree with everything that Tarek said. I mean, no one expected us to be talking about the Broncos really in any positive light. And the Chargers, unfortunately, they really have no semblance of a run game since J.K. Dobbins went out. I mean, they have Gus Edwards and they have the other guy who I can't think of at this moment. But they're not gaining any traction on the ground, and that's kind of taking away a lot of that offensive firepower that they had early on in the season because teams can just key on the pass knowing that their defensive line can just kind of stop whatever run game they try and have. And the Broncos have a really good defense. So, I mean, as the percentages lay right now, the Broncos are not favored. So I have the Broncos picked, and even if I wasn't just trying to pick upsets, I would also pick the Broncos. Bo Nix last week, first half, he looked like a rookie. Then he went into halftime and had some secret sauce or something and came out and looked like the first half never happened and had an amazing second half of that game.
That pick 6 didn't hurt either.
Well,
that pick 6 was nuts. That trick play pick 6 was amazing.
But I'm going with the Broncos in this one, and I do think the Broncos are actually going to win.
The biggest thing that scares me about the Broncos here, I am going to go with the Chargers actually, but the Broncos here, their pass defense, and I agree that the pass is really the strongest thing that they've got going for them on the Chargers. However, I think that they're going to make it work. I think they're going to make the maybe have to throw in some creative plays there because their run game isn't all that great right now. I think it's going to be a close game, and I do think Bo Nix is going to struggle a little bit. So I'm going to go with the Chargers, but less likely.
Chargers got absolutely embarrassed last week. Absolutely embarrassed by the Buccaneers. 40-17?
Yeah.
For a team that's supposed to have a very good offense, they absolutely crapped the bed. Sorry, I have cat hair everywhere.
And I think they've lost 2 in a row.
Yes, they have. The Broncos scored 21 unanswered points when Jonathan Taylor dropped the ball just before walking into the end zone to win that game in the second half. The Broncos defense has been incredible. Bo Nix has been, well, he's the rookie of the year, as we all know, rookie of the year. And just like Brady said, the ground game for the Chargers, they have to get it going. Otherwise, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle just to get the passing game going. They can't get without a good running game. Your passing game is going to suffer. And quite frankly, that's the case currently. And I think the Broncos are going to key in on that. They're going to win this game to put more distance between themselves and the Chargers.
And the Chargers' only really hope is if J.K. Dobbins can come back from IR and before they get into the playoffs, because if they keep playing the way they're playing, they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah. If any team's going to fall out of the playoffs, they're the team that would do it. All right, let's get into our last game of the week, and we have Jessica's game of the week. What would that be today?
Okay, so this is actually the game of the week. This is the Ravens and the Steelers, who are both fighting for that top spot. So in this situation, I know the Steelers have the better record. However, I think most people would agree they're not really in the same class. I wouldn't say league, but the Steelers have won several games that they shouldn't have necessarily won, and I think most of it's thanks to Watt. Yes, Russell Wilson did really well, started to do really well, but only when he's got Pickens in the game. And Pickens is questionable. He's day-to-day, I think. Watt is also hurt. So even if he does play, he's not going to be 100%. And he was the biggest threat for us in the last meeting and for most teams. I'm picking the Ravens here. So I think this is going to be a revenge game for that Week 11 game that we played against the Steelers. Where the Steelers won without even scoring a touchdown. They only got like 300 yards of total offense at the time. And it was just the Ravens, for some odd reason, abandoned the run entirely. And had Derrick Henry almost did nothing, was barely used. I don't think that that's the case this time. I think even if he's not gaining substantial yards, they have to put him in the mix more. And with the injuries on the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think this is going to be a pretty good game for the Baltimore Ravens. And I think they're going to take this, and then they have the tiebreaker for against the Steelers. Meaning like the divisional, sorry.
I mean, there's nothing really else to add other than this is going to be, I think, Lamar Jackson's first home game against the Steelers in his career, based on injuries and the COVID years, XYZ. So I think this is a game the Ravens have to have for multiple reasons. One, to win the division, and two, if Lamar really is going to cement his potential MV3 season, this is a team that he needs to beat soundly. And I think this is the time to do it. As Jess alluded to, TJ Watt he's probably going to play, but he's not going to be 100%. George Pickens probably going to play, but he's not going to be 100%. So the meat is there to take off of the bone here and really cement a legacy of Ravens football moving forward. But what I'm most interested in seeing is how the defense plays. Week 11 for the Ravens was when they first started doing the two deep safeties with Ardarius Washington and Kyle Hamilton. So the Steelers really got the first look at that. So I think that played into a little bit of why their offense didn't do as well. So seeing how the Steelers combat that new defensive look for the Ravens, which has been significantly better since Week 11, is really going to dictate how this game goes. So I have the Ravens in this one, but I'm not sure if it's more of a hope or a dream or if I actually believe it.
So, the thing that comes down to me, again, repeating everything that my colleagues have said here, I think one of the things that comes down to, or a possibility, I won't say it will come down to this, I'll say a possibility, depending on who shows up for this game. So a big problem with a bunch of the Ravens' losses this year has been Justin Tucker, Mr. Accurate. He has not been Mr. Accurate this year. I talked to Brady and a couple other people that the hope was during the bye week, Justin Tucker did nothing football related, just got his head on right, just thought about something else, let everything relax. Last week, he had a very quiet game. He just got 4 extra points or more than that.
I will add an asterisk to that, too. Jordan Stout was doing the kickoffs last week, too. So
that might have something to do with it. Just take a little bit of pressure off so we can just kind of focus. So there have been some losses. It depends on, like, Steelers always give a hard time. If they force some field goals, we'll see what happens. But I'm going with the Ravens. I'm picking the Ravens to win. I'm hoping that Justin Tucker got his head and his foot on right. Focus on those. I mean, he has the potential. We had, Adam Vinatieri and a couple of those guys make it into their 40s still kicking. I don't think he's done yet, but
He's still got lots of time left.
yeah, so just got to get I like the term from the Replacements, quicksand. He's got to get out of the quicksand.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm picking the Ravens.
Okay. The Baltimore Ravens, if they win this game, will not be leading the division. They will not hold the tiebreaker.
I thought they did because they've won more divisional games.
No. They will be tied in division wins. They will be tied in head-to-head. The Steelers will be ahead in conference wins by 1. So if the Steelers were to lose the following week to be Kansas City and Baltimore were to win out, it could go the Ravens' way eventually, but right now the Steelers would still be winning the division. A lot of things can happen between now and the end of the season. Now, getting into this particular game, let's take a look. Baltimore absolutely abandoned the run last time they played Steelers, and that was a huge mistake, as you could plainly tell. They couldn't get anything going on offense otherwise and just floundered in the red zone. The Steelers, coming off of that big loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, where they could pretty much just be coasting to the end of the season if they'd have won that one. They wouldn't have had to really worry about this game. They wouldn't have had to worry about a lot of the other games. But now they're in a panic mode because they know Baltimore can catch them without much issue. Baltimore is at home for this game, and it's going to be this is going to be one of the better games of the week. Absolutely, I got Baltimore winning this one to tie the division, and quite frankly, I think Baltimore does pull it out in the end, but it's going to be close. So, all right, now let's get into our Pop Panel Quick Pick'ems. And let's start with this. And Brady, you picked the Steelers.
I did, just because they're. I'm not gonna ever say those words, but yeah. And to be fair, I'm just gonna say it right now. That Giants-Falcons game, if Kirk Cousins looked like Kirk Cousins for the last 3 weeks, that game could 100% go the Giants' way.
He's not starting this week.
Kirk Cousins isn't?
Nope. Breaking news, Michael Penix is starting
then
this week.
Even better. Giants could still win that game.
Technically they could, but they're still on Tommy DeVito.
Hey, Tommy Cutlets who come through in the clutch.
And my biggest concern on this list is the Texans game. and it's just because we don't know what Mahomes is going to look like this week.
I have a feeling that if Mahomes can go, he'll go this week because then they have no what's the word I'm looking for, like fear of losing the number 1 seed. So they may just say like, "Hey, we're cool." So I think he'll go this week, and if they get up big, then they'll pull him.
Isn't Buffalo 1 game behind him?
I believe they
2
are
games.
2 games. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right, let's get to the next one. Pretty much clean sweep, other than, of course, the contrarian.
I mean, honestly, yes, of course, I'm the contrarian, but divisional game, Cincinnati, Cleveland, who knows which way that one goes. Divisional games are always extremely tough. And the Titans, Colts, I mean, yeah, the Titans got beat up pretty bad last week by the Bengals, but Anthony Richardson looked like bad last week. I mean, he was so inaccurate last week that anything could happen at that point. But the other two, I mean, those are just contrarian picks.
Yeah. All right, we get into these games, and quite frankly, without Geno Smith, I think the Seattle Seahawks are in trouble.
He's not playing?
He was hurt last week. I don't think.
Oh, hey, breaking news. Michael Penix has been named Falcons starting quarterback.
I broke it first. Dang it.
I'm kind of surprised I'm the only one picking the Eagles.
I just think it's because it's the Commanders are at home and they need this win. That's the only reason why I'm picking Commanders.
I mean, did you see the Eagles with A.J. Brown and Hurts actually connect this week?
But last week was the first week for Marshawn Lattimore for the Commanders, and he played extremely well. So I think that he's going to wind up traveling with A.J. Brown. The other game I want to talking about the Carolina Panthers. I mean, they have looked really good. And as I said, Carolina's defense has left some things to be desired, but I think that's going to be a close game. I don't think Carolina can win it, but Bryce Young is starting to turn it around and look like he may actually be able to salvage a career.
Well, that's the problem. Is Carolina's defense isn't really going to slow down Arizona's offense, and Arizona's offense is really their only strong suit. And they can score a buttload of points. Carolina can't really score a buttload of points, so I just think the defenses aren't on the same level, and that's what's going to come down to.
I just want to point out that the Charger symbol is still on the Broncos' knee.
I really got to get rid of that thing. Still there.
Oh, Mix is here.
All right. So I feel San Francisco is going to struggle this week against the running game for the Dolphins. I think that's part of the reason why they win.
Yeah, it seems like the Dolphins have finally realized, oh, hey, Devon Achane is actually a running back one and shouldn't be splitting carries with 33-year-old Raheem Mostert, and that has really not elevated their offense, but given them more of a balance to work with, especially when Tyreek Hill's not 100%.
Yeah, and neither is Waddle.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I heard Tua was not, but maybe. And then they had a major injury with one of their, I don't know, was it a defensive back or somebody? But I don't know. I just feel like they're too banged up right now that they just need to settle.
I, of course, also have the Jaguars simply because they actually showed some fight last week, and the Raiders are dog trash.
Raiders showed some fight too. They almost won it at the buzzer last night.
But with a Hail Mary.
Yeah, that's almost winning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they held them long enough, and I don't know, it was a pretty weak game, but.
And there's one person who believes in Cooper Rush, Mr. DeFreeze. I
actually think it's sad Rush can. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he doesn't do that much worse than Dak does.
He doesn't.
Unpopular opinion.
Want him to re-sign Dak the way they did.
I
wish they could redact it.
Yeah.
Not redact it.
Mm-hmm.
I think honestly real crux of that game. I think it's going to be closer than it looks on paper, but Tampa Bay's defense looked really good last week against the Chargers, and they've been statistically pretty banged up. But the Cowboys have somewhat found a running game with Dak out of the quarterback position. So I think Rico Dowdle is really going to decide how that game goes, because if he can put up another like 100, 120 yards, I think that game is going to be closer than it looks. But with Dallas being without Trayvon Diggs, it's going to be tough for them to cover Mike Evans.
I just feel like Tampa Bay has been the the sleeper kind of. They had some massive injuries this year. Somehow they were blowing away really good teams.
Baker Mayfield, man.
Yeah, and I like him. I mean, I think nobody expected that.
But also Dallas is playing at home and they're terrible at home, so.
Yeah, this will be a game day kind of decision for me. I think it's one of those that can turn around, but I didn't know about Trayvon Diggs. So we'll see. I'm kind of hopeful, and I think there's a very dim light at the end of the tunnel here, but we'll see. I just try to pick a couple of off-kilter games.
That dim light at the end of the tunnel is that bright spot on my big forehead.
That's why I put my my headband on so you can't see mine.
Mine's not shiny enough.
All right. Another week down, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate it. Thank you for sticking with our unique brand of whatever this is. We appreciate it. We have fun. Hope you guys have fun watching us. Click like, click subscribe. Leave a comment down below who you think is going to win. Answer our question. What division you think is going to change up here? We'll see you guys next week. As always, I'm Tarek.
I'm Jessica.
I'm Football Jesus, and happy retirement, Carol.
Happy retirement, Carol.
Happy retirement, Carol. And I'm Sam.
And Brian.
And Brian.
And Brian. Anything else you want me to say, Brady?
That's it. Wrap it up.
You guys have a great football week.
Bye, guys.